talking about this book, Thriving Through Uncertainty. And we have Tama Kieves here who is going to be talking about making transitions and living in love versus fear during those transitions. So, welcome, Tama.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
So I just got back last week, and I was it almost like a week ago, I think. No, it's almost been a little bit more than a week. I was down doing leading a panelist of women who are like yourself that have gone through huge changes and career changes in particular, and talking about how they navigated that path. And I realized that we don't talk enough about those kinds of changes, so people don't know how to thrive through uncertainty. Instead, we just kind of think it happens by magic, and we look at people who do that and say, "Wow, look at them." So, and so I read yours, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is just the perfect set." Because we had about 60 women in the group and three people on the panel. And at one point, I asked, who had questions, and I swear 30 people raised their hands. And I thought, wow, there's just a huge need for knowing about transition and how to do this smoothly. So I was hoping that you can talk to me. And this is actually, we just got a listener question saying, what kind of changes are you talking about? We're talking about career changes and making a career shift, kind of a mid-career shift. So this is what the panel was all about. So I thought, since you made a pretty dramatic shift, you went to Harvard Law School, then joined a prestigious law firm, and were either a partner or on partner track. And then please tell us the rest of the story, because you only have one sentence, and then I changed my mind. I'm like, oh, I know there's more there. So what happened? When was your aha moment, or was it a series of moments? What
I
happened?
think it was there was one big aha moment, but it was definitely a series. And I think it was more that there are so many people who find themselves in a successful life or what they're supposed to be doing, but it feels unfulfilling, or you feel empty, or you feel like there's got to be something else.
Mm.
And it was because when I was young, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to write. That's what I love doing. And
Oh, wow.
I want to be a writer, but I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, to an Orthodox Jewish family. And if you said you wanted to write, nobody said Mazel Tov. I
Right.
mean, it was just, you're going to write, you're going to starve, you're going to write. And was, that was the go for your dreams talk. And
Oh.
so I did what so many people do, which was I chose the practical path and the reasonable path. And I did what you're supposed to do. So I went to law school and Harvard Law School and graduated with honors and ended up on partnership track. And the thing that I guess what I want people to know is that you're choosing from what you think is practicality or good judgment. But if you're denying your heart, you're denying your soul, you're denying what you're really here for, it will cripple you. You will
Mm.
be exhausted. You will be frustrated. And that's what kept happening to me. I mean,
Mm.
that literally, I just felt so empty. You work 900 hours a week, or something. And if you're not doing what you really love, it just feels empty. And so thank God a friend said something amazing to me. He said, think about it. If you've been this successful doing something you don't love, what could you do with what you love?
Oh,
And
that is a
that, bam,
perfect question. And so was that your kind of aha moment where you're like,
that was
whoa.
one of the big ahas. I mean, so that was definitely percolating, but I guess the big aha, I mean, there were so many of them. Like you said, there was lots of them as they added up. But I think the really biggest aha, I was so unhappy one day and so miserable. And friends just said, just get away, just get the heck out of the office, get the heck out of here. So I booked a trip to California. It's so cliche, finding yourself in California, but I sat on a beach and I was watching these waves roll in, and I was eating this bagel, and I was
You're like
thinking,
merging your East Coast and West
I
Coast
know,
being
East
together.
Coast, West Coast, it's a whole moment, baby. It's good. And I just thought this is the happiest I've been in years. And the
Oh.
ocean is free. And this bagel back then was 50 cents, and and I thought, maybe I don't need a gazillion dollars a year to be okay. Maybe I just
Mm.
don't. Maybe I want happiness more. So that was my big aha moment, like just feeling a glimpse of what it was like to be happy again.
Okay, so I had kind of a aha moment similar to that where I had to have someone die, where my dad died, and I was like, why am I doing this? I don't really understand why I'm doing this. And it took me from the moment my dad died to when I left Microsoft, it took 2 years to have that actual transition occur for you. In the book, it seems like I sat on the beach. I didn't get the bagel part. And I didn't get that like pivotal question of like, what could I do if I actually poured all this energy into something I love? But so at that moment, how long did it take you from having these kind of epiphanies to the point that you actually left the law firm, and how did you go about leaving?
It was very short for me. Because I knew in law school I hated it. Like I knew
Oh,
in law school
wow.
that I wasn't in the right situation. But you kid yourself and you tell yourself, well, once I'm working as a lawyer, it'll be okay. Once I get on partnership track, it'll be okay. Once I get over here, it'll be okay. And again, it just every day was I just kept feeling more and more sad. And so to answer your question though about like how long it took from that beach moment, it only took like I ended up giving notice maybe 2 weeks after that. And I
Wow.
didn't want to. Like everything in me was like, don't do this, don't be a crazy person, don't just, don't just because you wrote something in your journal, don't be an idiot and throw your career away now. And I remember telling my friends, I can't do this. It's not going to look good on my resume. I just can't leave. And he said, I don't think a nervous breakdown is going to look good on your resume either.
Is this the same friend who told you that other thing?
Same friend.
That
Same
is a
friend.
good
Yeah.
friend to have around.
Good friend.
Wow, so it took, but what's interesting is that you knew in law school that that's not what you wanted to do, but was it because like you said your parental upbringing was like you can't be a writer, so it was really just, well, I'll write legal briefs. That will be my way to get my passion out.
Yeah,
Did you
I
bargain with
think
yourself to think that that was okay?
that's exactly it. It's exactly it. And one of the things that I'm so passionate about teaching people in all of my books and definitely in Thriving Through Uncertainty is that we are making decisions in our lifetime, whether it's a career decision, a marriage decision, a health decision, or whatever, based on the beliefs that we have. They're
Mm.
based on a belief, they're based on a story. It's not even based on reality. I made the decision early on, well, you can't make money as a writer. You can't do what you love. You can't, that's frivolous. That's crazy town. You can't do that. You better choose something practical. And so
Mm.
that's what I did.
Mm.
And so I made all these deals with myself in law school,
Mm.
like just practice law, you'll make money, and then you can write on the side, then you could do it
Mm.
on the side. But, most of us, if we are choosing a life that really isn't honoring our soul, there is no side. You're exhausted.
Mm.
You're fighting yourself every day to be something you're not. And so,
Mm.
um, but again, I think the biggest epiphany for me then, now, and always is that you might be making your whole life based on a belief that you have. And I'd want you to explore that belief because I finally decided, how do I know in my lifetime? I need to know. I need to
Mhm.
know if it's true. Maybe it's true writers can't make money. Maybe it's true I won't be a success. But I at least need to know in my lifetime that I tried what I
Yeah, I
wanted.
went for it. You went for it, and you knew. So, the question was, so are you a writer? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, baby.
You've written this book, and there are two other books in addition to
Three,
this. Three
three
books.
of
So total of
it's not four.
4 books. Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
I'm gonna I don't know why I did this. I'm also a coach, so I'm like, oh, so it's interesting. She had all these beliefs. So, can you make a living? Is it frivolous? What would you say to your bargaining self? Um, there is no, so I want to address, because you said so much, and that you just
Okay.
said so much. I want to unpack it. So,
Sure.
and one of the previous questions that we got from one of the listeners is it was probably really hard because you're probably pulling in, 6-figure salary in a law firm, and you were doing something that was prestigious. That your mom from Brooklyn could be like, "Oh, my daughter, the one who went to Harvard Law, she's
Let
on
me
partnership track."
You got that.
Oh, I have that Asian version of that same mother,
Same
so
thing.
I get it.
Same. You just have better food, I think.
I know bagels are good. So are
Yeah.
lox. Okay, so what? How did you address? Because there's this inner dialogue that we have, right? Of like, So how did you address your inner dialogue?
Oh my God, I'm still addressing it.
Yeah.
And will be for the rest of my life. And, thriving through uncertainty, the main thing I'm addressing in that book, and it's, by the way, it's not only a career transition book, it's any transition.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I just
any
picked that
transition.
because
I know you and I are focusing on career right now, but it's all about the relationship you have with yourself, and so like I had to learn, for instance, when you say like that inner voice that's asking you, well, what if you're a nut? What if you don't make money? What if you die poor? What if, what if you can't even write, just all kinds of questions. What I didn't know at that time, and what I learned and what I continue to learn and will for the rest of my life, is that there is another voice inside me. There's the fear voice and the immediate voice that's attacking, and the inner critic, and again, you think it's practical, you think it's good judgment, but there is another voice that's saying, you can do this. There's a reason you have this dream. There's a reason it won't go away. There's a reason you don't fit here. It's not because you don't, that you're a misfit. It's that you have another calling. You have another dream. And so, again, there's another voice in each of us. And for me, I had to learn how to listen to that voice and how to trust it. And, there's a million techniques and different ways to do that. But the biggest thing I've gotten out of my lifetime is I only want to listen to a loving voice. I only want to listen to a voice inside that gives me peace of mind, not one that diminishes me, not the one that attacks me. I want to be my own friend, my own coach in this lifetime of encouraging my best, my greatest potential, and letting life decide, letting me see what's true, like stepping out a little bit and seeing what's true. So, and by the way, I'll just say one quick thing. I am never advocating, by the way, that somebody has to make some big leap, right? That they have to just leap out of the career and do this. That was the way that I ended up needing to do it. I have many clients that do it a million different ways. Everybody's unique. Everybody has their own chemistry. Everybody has their own path. And for me, it's about listening moment by moment to that. Never to an expert even. Like never even switch to, this is the way she did it, so I have to do that.
Yeah, and I think actually it goes back to the original statement that you made, which is that you're using your inner voice to navigate. And your inner voice probably said, leave 2 weeks, go. Where my inner voice said, leave 2 years later, go.
Right.
There was a longer bargaining period of which I was like, maybe I'll try this. Well, maybe I'll try, I would say that I had an undeveloped inner voice. So one of the questions that someone just asked is, how did you find that voice? And if you can ask that question, I think that was the question just flashed before my eyes, but Rebel, send it over again. But I think it's, how did you find that inner voice?
That's everything, and that's a really, really great question. I also study and teach a program called A Course in Miracles, and it's a spiritual program. It's and I've taught that for like 30 years. And it's all about whether you listen to love or fear. But the basic way for me to find that inner voice, one of the ways, because my clients all the time say, "But Tam, I can't hear it. I can't hear it. I don't hear anything." For me, it was like learning to not listen to the negative voice. That was the main thing. My negative voice was speaking so loudly and screaming at me, and I was making my life and my decisions based on, okay, well, what if this and what if that, and I better do this and I better do that. And I had to slow down and learn not to just listen to that negative, cruel voice. And if I was removing self-judgment, if I was deciding to support myself and love myself, however best I could, that other voice would speak. And by the way, that inner voice, like with leaving law, that wasn't so much a kind voice. That wasn't so much, go forth and be a writer, child. It wasn't that at all. It was more, I'm in so much pain, I'm going to die. I am so
Oh,
much pain. When people say, I wish I had your courage, and it's like, it wasn't courage at that moment. It was desperation. It was like, I am going to die. I don't know what to do. This is killing me. And also, in terms of the bargaining, I couldn't focus in the same way. Like I'd always had this incredible willpower, but then all of a sudden I couldn't focus because I was so unhappy. So it was this decision of readiness to just save my life. Right.
yeah.
So
It was like a
sometimes
life
that's
or
how your
death.
inner voice talks also.
Yeah, so it's a life or death situation of your inner voice.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to leave you because
Yeah.
you've been treating me so poorly. Can't take it anymore. I'm going to make you not focus at work. All
That's
right.
exactly it. And that
Uh,
scared me. Like, oh my God, not be a success. I'm out of here.
all right, so,
We'll hit her where she lives.
exactly. That's how you're going to measure yourself. Well, we'll actually punish you until you
Yeah,
leave.
exactly.
All right. So one of the questions was, how did you know if you fit in or not? So that's, and it's hard because you had made a question. The comment that you made earlier is you said, I just felt like I didn't fit in, like I didn't belong here. How did you know that you didn't belong there?
Well, misery is a good clue.
Right.
And just I guess, one of the things that really influenced me at one point was that there was this other lawyer who was passionate about it, just excited about it. And I was just surviving. I was just like,
Mm,
I'm going to focus and I'm going to do my work. And during lunch hour, I'm going to close my door. That's my 60 minutes of freedom. Leave me alone. And he
mm.
was passionate. He'd be like, oh my God, Tama, did you see what the Eighth Circuit ruled? Oh my God, it's incredible. And he'd be so excited. And I remembered, I want to be that. I want to be that
Mm.
excited about my life. I want to care about it. Because I kept thinking, who do you think is going to be successful? The person who cares that passionately or the person who's just trying to survive?
Yeah, so
You
you
know,
knew that was it was based on kind of how you felt then. It was like, yeah, you just weren't feeling it. And
and the things that other people talked about, they weren't interesting to me, where if I was in a writing class, you couldn't shut me up, of just, it would be the things that like, oh my God, this is me.
right. So it's just almost like a felt sense of
Yes,
inspiration, excitement to kind of like, oh my God, I guess I can just get through this another hour or so.
exactly, exactly.
So it's kind of an energy. And so then the other question that I had in terms of the tools from getting you from, and you said earlier that a lot of your clients do different things. So like it took me 2 years, and I've had friends who've said like, I just have to do it right now because if I don't do it at this moment, I'll lose the chutzpah to kind of do this. I'm just going to stop doing this altogether. There's some who like literally take longer, 5 years. Like they'll say, I'm finally ready to go. Some have transition plans where they kind of move gradually to the thing that they want to do. What are other things that you've had your clients experience in terms of how they navigate
Six.
from, yeah.
Very much like what you were saying. The thing I always work with people, if it's appropriate for them, is I like to start dabbling on the side, right? Like let's
Mm-hmm.
explore the passion on the side. Because sometimes if you are exploring what you love and what moves you and what rocks your world, it will change your relationship to your job as well. So I've
Mm-hmm.
had clients that realize, oh, I don't hate my job. I was blaming my job for the fact that I wasn't going to a singing class or I wasn't having balance or I wasn't, really pursuing my dream to be a coach. And so
Right.
if you can do it on the side at all, I think it gives you energy. It changes your brain chemistry to do something you love. It just does. And
Right.
so that would be my first step always is let's try that and see if it works. I had one client, for instance, who really, really wanted to be a speaker, and that just wasn't what he did for a living in his corporate career. But he started dabbling on the side, and it was just this magical unfoldment where all of a
Mm.
sudden he found that exact position in his corporate job, and so like he ended up loving his job. So again, I don't think there's any one right way to do anything. For me, it is always this incredible path of learning how do I listen to my inner voice? Because what I will tell you is that there is already a path inside you. There is
Mm.
a path inside you. This is not something we're going to make up. We're not going to figure it out. We're not going to study statistics. We're not going to Google it. For all you control freaks who are sweating listening to this, yeah, put away the computer. The path is already inside you, and we're going to learn how to follow it moment by moment. So I did something wacky in my career. I got what I tell people is a dropout job. And what that is something that maybe pays your bills a little bit. It's very much lowered responsibility. It doesn't distract you because you already have a job, you already have a vocation, and it's finding your calling. It's figuring it out. It's letting it out. That's your calling, right? So maybe you want something on the side that's just going to be neutral for you. So I got a job waiting tables. That's what I did. Yeah. Didn't sit so well with my mother, It's just like, you're serving nachos? You're serving nachos with a law degree? Oh my God. What am I going to tell people? That was
That's
not
hilarious.
a let me say.
Okay, so part of the thing when you actually make that transition is the kind of external judgments that people make. So it's like you're on a partner track, there are people like, why did she do it? She was like performing so well. I don't get it. Or you meet people. So what was your response to the external world? Like, I know, we hear your mom, but what were the other responses from other people? Because, that's the thing. It does seem and we hear your inner dialogue, which is very similar, like, what am I, crazy? Like that kind of thing. So how did you navigate? And I know you talk about fear and love, but what were the loving words that you said to yourself to combat like these fear-based judgments?
So initially, I made the mistake of trying to answer everybody's questions. I made the mistake of trying to explain my life and what I was doing. And my therapist said this, but my Vedic astrologer said that. And people are like, okay, alrighty then, because when you're in transition, you're like going through this undoing process and figuring out every belief you have and every inner whatever. Normal people who are not going through this do not understand that. It's like, but what are you doing? Right. And so I think the main thing I had to do, one of the main things I had to do was I had to make the decision to step away from people who weren't supportive, to step away from even family members and friends at the time that were trying to reel me back into the old life. And to, it's a scary time, but that's why I do the work I do. I'm sure it's why you do the work you do, to support people in this incredible journey, because when you're in any kind of transition, you're in this amazing threshold. You have these opportunities. Again, that's why I wrote Thriving Through Uncertainty. I wanted to catch you right when you're in the threshold of any major change and help you make the most inspired decision rather than go back into fear. I wanted to be that voice that was going to coach you moment by moment to say, no, choose again. No, don't give up. Choose again. No, try this. No, dare that. Because your relatives and your friends are going to be saying, but how long is this going to take? And, how much money are you going to put into this? And what if what if you never find it? And so again,
you've met my relatives too.
We could start a support group.
Exactly. I think that it's funny because the thing that was hardest for me was going to the dinner party, because it was so what are you up to? That kind of thing. And you're like, oh no, what am I going to say? And what I realized actually after having had many of these kinds of conversations was that, one, I have the response, but what I realized psychologically happens is that people feel fearful when you're pursuing your dreams. Because if Tama's pursuing her dreams, what am I doing? This threatens me. So it's just like when people have someone in their life that dies, like they're like, oh, my great whatever, my husband, wife, whatever is dying. It's like people are like, I don't want to talk to you about that because then I actually have to face my own death. So I think it's just, so
you nailed it.
Once I understood psychologically, like they can't go there and you're like an instant threat. So I tried one thing, which was to be self-effacing. I don't know where I'm going. And then my Vedic astrologer, no, my My coach, spiritual coach, I had astrologers too, said to me, don't say that, because what you're doing each time you're saying is you're hypnotizing yourself and you're telling your unconscious mind, I'm lost, I'm confused, I don't know what I'm doing, right? So a
Wow.
better thing to say is to say, you know what, I'm in transition and I'm exploring lots of different opportunities, because that truly is an honest statement of where you are at, said in the most neutral way. And so if people would say that, then they're
Yes.
like, then they'd say, so what are you doing? And then I thought, F this. I'm like, I'm actually on the path of enlightenment. And that just shifted, like, what does
Woo!
that mean?
Oh yeah.
And then, but what
And
it
that
did,
stops them. They're not asking questions after that.
just like time out. And either they'd like walk away, like,
How's the weather there?
exactly. Or they'd be like, well, what does that mean for you? Like they
Yes.
got curious about, so I just took them in some,
Wow.
weird
And
path. And
good
they,
for you. You're more courageous
I
than
don't,
I am. I teach my clients to just know that I never take advice from unhappy people. I never take
yeah,
advice
that's
from
really good
people. So,
advice.
like the people who are asking you and demanding answers, because to your point, I think they feel uncomfortable or
Right.
they feel, or sometimes they're worried about you. And if you're in the middle of a transition, you have the right to be uncertain. You have the right to be uncertain. This is an incredible birth process. And I want you to take your time and not have to answer to people who really don't care anyway. They don't
Yeah.
understand it. There are going to be some people who understand it and go, oh my God, you're doing that. That's incredible. And there are going to be other people who just don't, right? And
Yeah.
so like we waste so much time explaining ourselves. And again, I think the biggest thing about this path, about any major transition, is what I was saying earlier, that we live in such a culture of all about what you're doing, what you're doing, what you're doing, what action steps you're taking, how are you doing this, doing this. And this is a path of undoing. It's a path of undoing the beliefs that have hurt you before. It's a path of undoing any circumstances that no longer serve you. It's about really discovering a different identity in yourself than you ever knew you had.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's this whole, rewiring of how do you stay inspired instead of fearful. And most people don't understand that. They're just saying, well, what'd you get done today? What'd you
Right.
check off your to-do list? And it's like, I
Right.
changed the thought. Oh my God, I changed the thought. Do you know how miraculous that is? I changed a thought. Without a pill, I
Exactly.
changed the thought.
I next time you change your thought, call me and I'll be like, that is fantastic. It is
Go get it.
so hard to
Because
do, man.
exactly.
After you've had a thought for, in my case, 55 years, you've had a thought for 55 years, changing it like that is
Exactly.
miraculous. And some
It
of the
is
thoughts I've changed are
miraculous.
kind of unbelievable. So one of the things that you said, and that I got as kind of aha in the thriving through uncertainty, is it was the most simplistic way of explaining it. But you said first, before you take all these different things that people tell you to do, you have to find yourself. And I was thinking about that as I was contemplating about your book and thinking, that's really, you have to, we want to go on a destination. We want to figure out our destiny. We want to know where we're supposed to go next, but we actually don't even know where our starting point is. We don't even know
Mm,
where our home base is. We don't put the address of our, what is our home? What is your home address? And if you really don't know who you are, I don't know how you can really start the journey. And I think that you said that, and I thought that is just so perfect, because I couldn't, I have all these things that I've taken clients through, but I haven't been able to distill it into one solitary sentence, which is
mm.
like, you need to find out who you are first. Because if you don't do that, it's really hard to go anywhere. Because
Right.
you don't even know what car you're driving. Are you on a bicycle? Are you on a tricycle? Are you on a train? Like, you don't even know who you are before you embark on a destination.
Absolutely. And we live in a world like, people like us where we learn to succeed by denying who we were.
Yes.
I learned to succeed. I was a professional, which meant I could be miserable. I could be crazy upset, but I was going to get the job done. And it
Right.
didn't matter because I was a professional,
Right.
And so, like, I got paid really, really well to deny everything I felt, to deny everything I knew inside myself. I got paid well for that. And
Mm.
so, I work with a lot of people that, like you, where, they've been so driven to succeed by somebody else's standards, or even sometimes a mother who's, works so hard to raise her kids, do what the husband wants, run the household. And then all of a sudden you go, but what do I want? Or who am I? Because even me, when I remember, I remember the first time I ever did, like, somebody took me and like did like a tarot card reading, and I'd never done anything like that.
Yeah.
And so the reader was saying, feel the energy of the card, to pick your card. And I had no idea what he was talking about.
What the hell are you talking about?
Like, I was like, which card gets me the right life? Which card gets me the A? Just tell me which one's the right life.
Magician, is that the one?
Your feet. I'll pay you more if you tell me that.
I love it. All right, so you went for your dream job. You decided to become a writer, and I mean, how did that happen? It sounds so. And again, it's always hard in a book because it's like, and then I became a writer. I'm like, what? Like, well, because I know you've always wanted to be a writer. Yeah.
Just backstory, right?
Yeah.
My first book, This Time I Dance, Creating the Work You Love, is all about that journey. Is all about the journey of leaving law and becoming a writer. My second book, Inspired and Unstoppable, is all about the journey of, okay, you have this dream, you have this magic, you have this passion. How do you take it into the world, but not be a crazy person? Like, how do you do it in your own inspired way rather than following what everybody else says you should do? Thriving Through Uncertainty for me was more about, I wanted to do a deep, deep dive into, you're at the threshold of any kind of change and you're in the middle of that. How do you cultivate this relationship with yourself and choose the thoughts that really empower you and really, make you make inspired decisions in every aspect of your life. So I stayed a little light on my personal story just because I'd covered it so much in other books. Yeah.
Yeah. I apologize that we're going back to other territory.
That's fine. You're just doing this book. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a question that just popped up. You're going to have to send it again because I couldn't read it and listen at the same time. All right. So what I wanted to ask is to follow up on what you just said.
You were saying, how did I go from I wanted to be a writer to, that what you were asking?
And also there's, so yes, I guess I didn't even have you finish asking that, but I'll ask another question. The other question was, there's probably times when you hit like like I'm crumbling down, because that's what you said was the impetus for this book, is like, I can't. Yes. I'm not thriving at this point. I'm feeling like, why did I make this decision? This was a stupid decision, whatever. So how did you...
Or how do I even make a decision? Like, life is all of a sudden so different, you know?
So tell me your like 3 worst times, or one worst, a really awful time, and how you navigated around that.
That's a great question. And so... so first of all, I think what I wanted people to know more than anything else, that the way that this path works is that you will get inspired, you will get excited, and then you will hit a circumstance that will make you terrified, right? Will make you doubt everything, right? And so that's just normal. That's how this path works. To stay inspired takes practice. And so again, that's why I wrote Thriving Through Uncertainty, is I wanted you to know that you're always going to be in the middle. I'm in the middle now. There is no there, right? Like, no matter what success you're at, I'm going to be going for my next growth, my next edge. I'm always going to be in the middle. So I wanted to help people really thrive in the middle. So to answer your question, though, I'll give you an example of like one of those melting down points. So my first book, This Time I Dance, I was writing it for like almost 12 years on my own. Didn't have an agent, didn't have a publisher, didn't have a contract, but I was following this inner voice and I was believing. And there was one day I walked into a bookstore and there was a brand new book on exactly the topic I was writing about.
Oh, no.
And I just had this incredible, like, oh my God, I'm crazy. I could just be delusional. I'm following an inner voice. Hitler heard an inner voice. I could just be a nut job. I didn't consider that possibility. And so I was like melting down crying, and thank God it's in the self-help section. So they had a little bench there, But that was a choice point. And so I think everybody's going to hit these choice points of, do you listen to fear at that moment, or do you listen to love? So my fear was saying, you're a crazy person, you're nobody, you're never going to be successful. Here's this fancy book and by somebody famous and nobody needs you. And then thank God my love said, because I went home, I didn't hear it right away, but I went home and I journaled and I journaled and I journaled. And it just kept saying, no, you have to trust. You just have to trust. You have to trust there's a reason you want to do this. And then what it asked me was, what's it going to feel like in your own lifetime to know that you had this desire, you had this dream, and you stopped yourself? It wasn't that the world stopped you, you stopped yourself. And so that was one of those choice points where thank God I went on and, cutting to the chase of like, I ended up self-publishing that book. And then I ended up getting picked up by the major publisher of my dreams that then published that book, the second book, the third book, and now this book. So it's like, if I had not chosen to listen to that love in that moment, I would never be leading thousands of people at this point in my life.
Yeah.
So those choice points are so important to always go the way of love, always.
And when you mean go the way of love, it's the loving voice, but because you like even it's so I'm just amazed because when I listen to your voice, the difference between I don't know if you're trying to hypnotize me or what, but I hear the difference between.
Yeah, that's my plan. Buy my books. Buy all of my books.
No, your voice tracks. Because as a coach, I'm listening. I'm like, wow, her voice is so dramatically different. I mean, your inner voice and what it says to you, it changes the vocal quality, your facial, everything changes when you get there. So in some ways I can see what happens when you're actually in that inner voice, but how do people know that they, and I think I've asked this already, and I think you've answered somewhat, but I want to, Yeah. How did you know that to follow that inner voice at that point, and how does one know what the voice of love is?
That's a really great question because, by the way, the voice of love is not always the one that says, that's fine, go eat pizza.
Right.
That's not always
Honey,
the
don't worry
voice.
about it. Exactly.
That's fine. Yeah. I think the distinction I would always say is listen to a voice that makes you feel peaceful. Listen to a voice that gives you peace. And so that loving voice sometimes will say something scary. It will say, go talk to that person that, scares you, go talk to that person and, ask them to be a client if that's what your thing is. And that might be scary for you, but it gives you peace because it's the right thing, right? Like there's an inside thing where, I don't want to do this, but I do know I need to, right? So it's whatever voice that gives you peace. Fear doesn't give you peace. And when I say fear, it could be, I don't only mean like terror. I mean anger. I mean shame. I mean, anything that's attacking you or diminishing you, an inner loving voice would never speak that way. Even if I needed to change my, it may be that, don't write this book. I might have gotten that guidance. That might have been possible, but it would have been loving. It would have been, honey, this is great. You've learned so much. Now let's direct it over here. Right. I mean, so like it's anything that gives you peace.
Right. So
and it takes time to learn it.
Like shame, judging, those are all kind of fear-based voices. So I have one caveat to add to that though, because there have been times when I've had an inner voice that said, go become, I thought I should run for public office. So I thought, okay, well, what's it like to run for public office? And I thought, well, and so I met with people who were in the city council in Seattle, and I said, what should I do? And they said, first, run for like something like your neighborhood association and see if you enjoy the work. And I thought, okay, that's a perfect way for me to get my feet wet. And so the minute I decided to do that, I was scared beyond belief. I thought, okay, I'm going to run for being president of this neighborhood. And this is like a really active neighborhood that I'm in. So it's not like not a big deal. We talk about dog poop and stuff. Like we talk about like major land use, all these big issues, and there's crime, all the stuff issues with the area that I live in. And the minute I hit that, I just hit like a huge fear point. And even with this radio show, the minute I had an inner voice that said, do this radio show, it came to me in a miraculous way. And then I was terrified when I got there. So and I just want to bring that out because that may be like, well, I was in fear. So does that mean I shouldn't have done that?
And that's exactly what I was trying to say, because even though I had the same thing, like with public speaking, like a certain, I love public speaking, but there were certain situations that were like really scary for me, like being the keynote to thousands and thousands, but my inner voice was like saying, yes, you do need to do that. And I knew it was right, but I was terrified. And so again, but again, love might be encouraging you to go to your greatest potential It
Right.
might be encouraging you to stretch your wings, baby, right? You know, like, because we all want to play small. We all want to do what's comfortable. And again, this is an inspired path that you don't even know who you are. I didn't even know I could speak. When I began, I had no idea that I was a speaker. I was a writer, right? You know, I had no idea.
Oh,
And it's definitely another part of my calling, and a very significant part of my calling at this point in my life. And so, again, you're going to discover who you are and discover who you are and discover who you are. It's so much more than you think. It's so much more than you know. That's why I want to keep your brain out of it. Your brain
mm,
is doing the statistics and what's going to work and what's not going to work. Because you may have found with the public office that, you know, it was important for you to do it because you learned all these skills, and then ultimately it wasn't even your path, but you got something out of it, right? Or
yes,
you
that's
met somebody.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's exactly what happens. Because sometimes the path leads you, if you are to follow the flow of the divine or the inner voice or whatever you want to call it, it sometimes leads you in weird places. I'm like, well, why did it lead me there? And
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I mean, it was the most confusing inner voice because I was doing the neighborhood association. I was getting trained to be a yoga teacher. And I was doing a mediations class that I said, I'm like, I don't understand. Why are you sending me in these three, and I was a coach at the same time. Why are you sending me in these four completely different directions? I totally
Mm-hmm.
don't get it, but I know you're asking me, so I'll do it. And at one point in my life, all this stuff will make sense. And it
Mm-hmm.
has. I can
And
look at
it
every
has.
single one of those decisions. I
Isn't that
got
amazing?
leadership skills. Like, if you can lead a group of ragtag neighbors to do anything, it's just, you have to have
You
leaders.
can rule the world.
You can rule the world. So, I learned about leadership. Mediation has been a life skill that has probably saved us, my husband and I, from arguing for hours and hours instead of it's like 20 minutes instead of 5 hours. So that's, and my family, everything. It's like a huge core skill. I
And that
mean, every single thing, yoga, like they're all made sense, even though at the
that
time.
to me is the most exciting thing, because like I always say to my clients, I have a line that's in all of my books actually that says, you can't plan an inspired life. You
Yeah.
can't plan an inspired life. So your brain is figuring out, how is this going to work, in the four directions, and which am I? Am I a yoga teacher or am I a neighborhood leader, right?
Right.
And I have a whole chapter in Thriving Through Uncertainty, which is all about following the breadcrumbs, which
Mm-hmm.
is exactly what you're talking about. That on an inspired path, when people are saying, but I don't know how, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to find it, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, it's following a breadcrumb and then following another breadcrumb and then following another breadcrumb. And those breadcrumbs might not be what your linear mind says they should be, or your analytical mind says they should be. But you're such a perfect example of, it comes together in ways you can't imagine, because we're meant to live this unimaginable life, this potential that we have not yet lived. So your linear mind is very important and beautiful, but it shouldn't be driving the bus,
Mm.
right? It shouldn't be the one that's leading. I have a very strong logical mind. I use it, I bless it. I don't let it make my ultimate decisions. I
Mm.
follow the breadcrumbs.
Okay, so you've become a speaker.
Hmm.
So it sounds like that was your biggest fear point. Tell us a little bit about how you navigated, like, oh my gosh, I can't, in this particular context, I don't feel great talking to 1,000 people and being the keynote speaker. So what did you learn from that experience and
Oh,
how
it's
did you navigate?
huge. It's huge. Of just because I think it's so important to learn how to find comfort when you're going past your comfort zone. How
Mm-hmm.
to. And I have tons of fears. I mean, that's why my clients love me, because they're like, Tammy, you're so screwed up. You give me hope. If you can do this, it gives me so much faith it's possible. So I have a ton of fears. And for me, it was only certain types of speaking engagements. It was like when there wasn't interaction. I could speak to 5 billion people if there's interaction, but it was just when I was just keynoting, lecturing, right? So that was always the place for me where the fear came in. And I have had to really work with myself of, what I found for me, it was like this thing of like really finally realizing that I was so demanding that I be perfect and that I nail it and that I do great, that I wasn't honoring the part of me that was scared out of its mind, you
Mm.
know? And so I finally had to work with that fear part of myself. And I made these little deals with myself
Oh,
constantly.
cute.
Honey, we could walk off the stage if we need to. We could
Oh.
run. We could move out of that city and never be found again. Like, I mean, like I like had to make these deals that I finally had to decide that my own health and my own self-love was more important than performing. And that was
Mm.
really hard because I love succeeding and I love pleasing people and I love being excellent and I love being nailing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to finally decide that my own self-love and my own care was even more important. So I literally had to make these deals with myself that, honey, let's try it and let's just go moment by moment. Let's try it. And if at any moment this is not working for you, you can't bear it, fine, we'll go. And so like I'd literally negotiate with myself, like on stage, like a part of me would be like, like getting nervous. And I'd be like, well, can we just like hang out for another second?
Right.
And so it's just like gradually, and also just really being kind with and also I think the universe supports you whenever you're doing something that you're really meant to do, because I would always do really well, so like it would always go well externally.
Yes.
I was dealing with myself internally. But it's been a huge part for me of like how to be kind to yourself and to do something gradually, to let yourself go backwards and not do it. But then the Course in Miracles has a concept that says choose once again and choose again and choose again. So it's like yoga, right? It's like you can try a pose, and then if it's too hard and you're going to your edge, you stop. But then you choose again. And then you choose again. It's the same thing like getting out of our comfort zone in any way, whether it's speaking or healing or our marriage or anything. It's like, can I make this commitment that I'm going to go somewhere great, but I'm going to be incredibly kind to myself. And part of kindness is going to be, I'm going to choose again and I'm not going to stop.
Right. I love it. So now so you went from writing books to feeling a fear point about speaking to now I assume that you're speaking all the time, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yes.
And so for what's I hate to say it this way, but what's the payoff for you going through, trusting and saying, no, I want to, yeah. What's the payoff been like when you were to talk to if you were to talk to your younger self, and we have 2 minutes,
Okay.
but if you were to talk to your younger self and say, Tama, the part of you that went to law school or all those other pieces, what would you say at that juncture about what your life could be like if you were to follow your dreams?
I think the biggest thing I've gotten out of it is just that, especially like going through the fear of speaking and the fear of writing a book and all of it, is like, I've gotten to connect with my people, so because I'm doing my dream, I'm meeting thousands of people now who connect with my work and connect with me, and I connect with them. And, I'm on Facebook every day with people, and we have a newsletter of thousands of subscribers that are like into my work or coming to my programs. And to fully be who I am and to have discovered who I am through that. I am more that than not that. Like when I'm speaking or writing, I'm more myself, not less myself, right? And so you don't even know your own potential, but the beauty of it is the connection that you get out of it, the connection with other people, because you're being your real self for the first time in your life, and the people connect with you then, it's like, oh my God, you're connecting with the real me. This is incredible. And I think the even bigger thing for me was connecting with my spirit, connecting with that power that could lead me through anything and everything, and realizing this is real, and to me, this is the most important power in this world. And I want to help people get there. I want to help people not think it's frivolous or not think it's foo-foo or not think it's weird. I want to legitimize this incredible power because it's been the most important thing in my lifetime and will be for the rest of my life. So yeah, there's been a big.
Well, it's a beautiful story, and we've actually been able to promote all 3 of your books in one interview.
And there's a 4th one.
There's all 4 of your books. So, thriving through uncertainty, moving beyond fear of the unknown, and making change work for you. And then there's 3 other books beforehand that are kind of covering more in depth about some of the topics in your own transition. Tell us about your website if people want to take courses, hear your keynotes.
Absolutely, because if you go out to the website, we have all these great free gifts about how to. You can download them immediately of like some instant practices to get out of fear right now and start thriving. So you can download that at tamakieves.com. TAM as in Michael. Oh, look at you!
Yes, there's T-A.
TamaKieves.com.
So,
Beautiful.
so for people
Give it
listening, it's TAMAKIEVES.com.
yes. Beautiful. And make sure, and you'll get a newsletter that comes out once a month to keep you inspired. I write a fresh article every month. It's been passed around the world. My biggest dream at this point is to keep a community of us together, thousands worldwide, who are living from inspiration instead of fear, that we can do this together because we are training our minds to be different. We are, like I say, inspiration is a practice, moment by moment. You'll get inspired, you'll hit a wall. You'll get inspired, you'll hit a wall. You need to be talking to people like us. You need to be talking to your people. And so please join me at tamakieves.com, also on Facebook every day, Twitter, all the social channels. I want to meet people. So please connect with me anytime. Go to some of my programs. I'd love to connect with you. They're amazing. So thank you.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. I would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.